Job preparedness class. That's a relief, isn't it? So, as I promised, we'll have a panel up here at the end of the session. We'll do a little bit of review, cover one or two things, and then sometime in the second half, we've got a panel of two people comment. So you have a little different face, a little different voice to listen to. And they're here to answer any questions that you might have connected to job preparedness. They'll probably be open to answer other questions too. So get your thoughts together. Now, there's people that are in this class regularly. There's just 3 of you here, 4. Do you have your book, your notebook? I have a card, that's all right.
Sorry.
Don't worry. Don't worry. So I've got enough here, I think. Let's see, 4 pages. This is what's in your notebook for this class.
I don't need one.
Okay, you guys can share. If you don't mind.
No, we don't mind.
That'd be fine. Oh, there you go, and your notebook's out.
I haven't got one at home.
Thank goodness I have this. That's what's in your, well, it's the,
I have a book.
you don't need to have it.
I've done the list already.
All right, that's right, yeah. Okay, well, that's fine.
And I got a job too, so.
Oh, right.
Yes,
Good.
yes,
Good.
amen.
Good.
Praise God.
We like to hear
And
that.
Kirsty did too.
All right.
Good job.
Well, we also have, the good news is about half of this class is very applicable to life, as you remember, because you've been through this class. So, but anyway, what we're going to do is review just a little bit from the first 3 sessions. And so let's see where. All right, so let's remind ourselves of some things. Number 1, we talked about a purpose. What's the purpose for this class? Why does Mandy have this as one of her classes? And so I worked with her, and we came up with this as the purpose of the class. And it's really guided what we've talked about. So let's just go over this again and remind ourselves. The purpose is doing what you can to be ready to be hired for a job so that you can provide for yourself and be able to give to others. Let me start at the bottom this time and work our way up. We always start from the top. The whole point of the well is to provide the skills so that you can provide for yourself. And we have this phrase, and be able to give to others. The reason we have that is, that's a part of being self-sufficient, is that you're self-sufficient. There's other folks that are still trying to get there. And we need to be able to have so that we can give to help others. And the best illustration for that is the well itself. And I've talked about this in the other classes. This may be a little bit more for the visitors. But the well is here because Mandy Memel and a whole lot of other people have devoted a lot of time and a lot of energy to set this place up and provide these programs here so that people can end up self-sufficient and be in a position to give to others. But it took people deciding we're going to give to others to help make the well happen. And so this is kind of the goal. This is where we're headed. Our class, we sort of focused on the top 3. So going back up to the top, doing what you can. And the point that I emphasize there is that everything that we talked about in this class, you can do. Right? Remember those? All those things? We can do those things. Everything we've talked about. And I purposely kept it at that. We want to focus on the things we can do. And those things are aimed at being ready to be hired for a job. You can be hired for a job, and that's good. But it's important, and you'll see as we talk a little bit more about our, in recapping what we did the first couple of weeks, it's important that you be ready, that you become a little bit of a different person. We all are doing that. We continue to become, hopefully, a better version of ourselves as time goes on. And so that's what to be ready is about. To be hired for a job, we talked about some very specific ways and tips and techniques and things you can do to be hired for a job last week. We talked about application forms and interview. We'll be reviewing those in just a minute too. So that's the purpose statement. Doing what you can. This class, we focus on doing what you can to be ready to be hired for a job. So we had several key ideas that we talked about. First couple of classes we focused on in doing what you can. And what you can do, you can change and you can learn. Does anybody remember an example that helps tell us that?
I got here the
Yep.
things that you can change.
Exactly.
Like you know, you got your list like respectful, experience, get along, not a thief, violent, no violence, no drugs.
Things, and we put a list on this board here. Things you can change. And then we had on the other side here a smaller list of things you can learn.
You can learn.
And it's
Like,
important, L-E-A-R-N. It's important that we change. And it's important that we learn. No matter what your age, and you can ask any of the mentors, but life is about changing the next day, the next week, so that we can continue to develop. What we did is we put these lists on the board. These were not our lists. These are things I wrote down to remind you of the list, but it's things like getting along with others. These are things that supervisors, bosses, hiring people want out of the employees that they get. People that complete tasks, people that are enthusiastic, that accepts advice and criticism, people that are ready for work on time, they're responsible. And we said all of those things. The reason we call them things you can change is because any one of these, let's say I know, I say, well, a lot of these things, I do those pretty well. But you know what, I'm really not good at completing tasks. Everybody's always telling me, oh, you start a lot of stuff and then you never finish it. Well, I need to be more like this because this is what those places of employment are looking for out of me. So the reason I have it in this category is this is something that I can say, I need to do a better job at completing tasks, and I can decide right now that from now on, I'm going to do a better job at completing tasks. It doesn't mean that the next task I do, I'm perfect at completing it. I may still fail, but I can decide to start changing in that area. And you remember what our homework was that first week? Remember what your homework was?
To pick one of the.
Exactly. Yes, say it.
I'm trying to think of the word.
Yeah.
I can't think of the word.
I told you to pick one of these things
Yeah,
that you felt that you needed to be better at.
yeah.
And then what you were going to do that whole week was what? You remember?
Practice.
Practice it. Practice it as if
You were at work.
you were at work. So if it's completing tasks, any task that I do, I was going to treat that like that was a job and I was being paid for it and I was on the clock. And so I would say, wait a minute, I can't go do that. I need to take the extra 10 minutes and finish this because that's what I'm working on this week. And so that was it. Because the point of having things on this list rather than this list is these are all things that you and I can work on changing. I suggest doing it one at a time, one thing at a time. until you're good at it or better at it. Then we have a list on the right side of the board you can learn. Because there's some things, as we were listing things and people said, again, this is not what you put up. You had much better examples than the ones I had here, but like running a cash register. That's what employers want employees to do. And I agree with you, in some jobs that's true. But the problem is, I can't sit here and say, okay, from now on, I'm gonna do a better job at running a cash register. Well, I don't know anything about a cash register. Somebody has to teach me. I have to learn how to do that. I can't just decide to change and change in that area. And we spent some time saying, the point is, we all can learn. We can't learn everything, but there are things we can learn that are connected to what employers want. So things I can change, things I can learn. And this picture is trying to show and remind you that changing, and even learning, but changing more importantly, is a fundamental building block that you need for the rest of your life, not just for jobs, but for living life.
Sometimes it's a simple matter of being appropriately dressed for
Yes.
public.
Yeah, exactly. If I don't have, they had that on there. I don't know if I had that on here. No, I didn't put it on my, but that was one they had, this class had listed. Yeah, very good. That's right. Very good, thanks. That's exactly right. And that's something you can decide to change. All right, everyone can change, everyone can learn. Knowing you can change and knowing that you can learn are foundation blocks you need in all of your jobs and life from now on. And we talked about what this process of taking these and deciding to change and making a change, that all ends up, changing over time. You can't measure this in days. You can't measure it in weeks. And you may not even see yourself changing. Other people see it before you do. But you become a different person. And that's something that's built into us. That process is built into us by the Creator God. Humans have that capability. And we talked about the fact that if you know God, if you believe in Christ and you now are a new creation, God is doing that work in you already. The Bible calls it transformation. He's changing you. And so that fits right in with this. And so God's already working on that process. So you have that working for you if you're a Christian. That's already happening. You already have His Holy Spirit working in you, and to make changes to turn you into the character of Christ. Again, it's not something you measure day by day, week by week, even month by month. You measure it over longer periods. And we use an illustration for when we say change, when we say transformation, it's not just acting differently. It ends up making a change, like the change that a caterpillar goes through to become a butterfly. There's a change inside that happens. When we now are the kind of person that completes all the tasks, that is honest, that is reliable, shows up on time. So that was the illustration we used. Any questions on that? This is stuff we covered, I think, in the end of the first lesson and beginning of the second lesson. Now there's some tools that can also help us. What order did I put those in? All right, first tool is, not the first tool, this was just the more fun tool. And that is, we learned about how to reduce cortisol levels in our bodies. Do you remember that?
Oh, boy.
Right. And how do we reduce cortisol levels in our body? What's one way we could do it, the way we learned in this class?
With the power pose.
Yes.
Wonder Woman. Oh, yeah.
Amy Cuddy, a researcher at Harvard, learned that if you just strike certain poses, you could either increase your cortisol levels or decrease them. And cortisol is the bad chemical related to aging.
Stress hormones.
Stress hormone, thank you. I had forgotten that phrase, yeah. So she learned that just how you pose yourself, if you do that for 2 minutes, there's a reduction in cortisol and an increase in testosterone. And so you feel better, you feel sharper, you feel more engaged, you are more engaged, you have changed chemicals slightly in your brain, but it works. And so we've been doing that. Did anybody do their power pose today? That's right. One of them is the Wonder Woman pose, right? Somebody like to demonstrate
That's my favorite.
any of the other ones?
Sharon, go ahead, Sharon.
I was the one.
Yeah?
Standing up, go ahead, do power pose.
I already did mine.
There you go. Yes, she did the Wonder Woman, right? And the way your posture is, you have your shoulders rolled back, remember? So things are open, you're not closed down, the shoulders are rolled back, the head's up, so you're looking straight ahead, which, something like this, right? All those things. And of course, the opposite poses, the ones where you're sort of in on yourself, or that raises the cortisol. So it's not a huge tool. It's not going to make you a different person, but it's a tool you should use generally in life.
And the reason it works is that you're giving your body more oxygen by opening up your
There you
lung
go.
capacity.
There you go. Excellent. Thank you. Right? So it's useful to use. Take advantage of it. If you go to a job interview, don't go 5 minutes early. Go 7 minutes early. So you go into the bathroom, find a stall, take 2 minutes to do a power pose. It will make a difference. And every little bit of difference is helpful to you. The other resources we talked about is realizing you can't do it alone. So you have God's help.
Amen.
And pray. That's right. That's right. What's useful, of course we want to pray and say, Lord, I need help in this interview. But I think in general, as you're praying, asking for God's help, think about it in this way. You're in a relationship with God. Thank Him for what you have. Ask what He wants to do generally in your life. Yes, getting this job would be a good thing in your eyes. But be looking to God for how He wants to direct your life in general, and ask Him to guide you. Then you have people in your lives. You have a mentor. That's the beauty of the Wells program. That's the core of it. These classes are nice, but it's your mentor that's going to be helping you, and they'll be a person that can give you feedback and guidance. Essential person in your life. You should take advantage of that. Friends also, friends that will tell you the truth about things. All right, moving on with our review. Okay, then we talked about, briefly, about making a plan. So whether it's making a plan that, hey, I want to change this area, so my plan is, for this week, I'm going to treat showing up on time as my job. Anytime I'm supposed to be somewhere at a time, I will show up on time because that's my job for this week. So that's a plan. And then we made a plan where we talked about had you put down some skills that you have, possible jobs I connected with, and then come right back to change and learn. What do I need to change and learn to have those types of jobs? For everything that you do with job hunting, you should make a plan. It's part of preparing. And you can never, ever prepare too much in any of the steps of finding a job. Preparation is an essential component. Any questions on that? This is all review, but happy for any questions. Good. See, all right, then we talked about actually applying for jobs. And we said the first rule is, when you're looking at applications, learn things from the application. Don't just throw down your information and submit it. Yes?
It was to read the small print to make sure what they were required.
Exactly. In this case, one thing you should, in this particular application, McDonald's, they really want you to apply. Apply today. Not, well, if you're good, apply. If they're trying to encourage you to apply, but small print's exactly right. Notice that employers want good employees. You read this small print, which I'll take just a minute to read. If hired, some of your responsibilities would include reporting to work on time, dress neatly and cleanly. You would be helping us deliver friendly, accurate, fast service in a respectful, professional environment. We would want you to uphold and follow McDonald's operational quality and food safety standards and help make every customer feel like a valued guest. Now, how many things in that paragraph were on our to change list? Lots of them, yeah, just about all of them. So all these things are things that you have, this application is telling you, if you want to come work for us, we want this kind of employee. So if you want to apply there, make a plan and start working on the things on this list that maybe you're not as good at, to change. Because you want to change to be the type of person they want to employ. Another kind of thing you can learn from applications. This was from Party City, if I remember right. So notice what is important to the company. Very top sentence. You're required to provide our customers with outstanding service. Do you accept this responsibility? Well, what's important to this company? That all their employees provide outstanding customer service. Now, if that wasn't enough, notice things that might be asked in the interview. There's, subtly in the application you'll find things, they might ask about this. In this one, this particular application, on the interview, you will be asked. Wow, there you go. They want you to provide your definition of outstanding customer service. So what's your preparation? Have an answer for that question. Don't show up and have them say, what's your definition of outstanding customer service? Say, I never thought about that before. Let me think. Well, what you're telling this employer is, outstanding customer service is in the forefront of your mind, that you've never thought about this before, even after they told you it would be asked. So you want to take advantage of things that the application tells you about. Another thing important to the company, they say right here in small print, Party City stores are often open for business on holidays and have extended business hours for special events, store promotions, inventory holidays. So guess what? They need people on holidays, after hours, and so on, to provide this customer service. And they do say, with the work schedule, can you work a flexible schedule where days and numbers of hours scheduled is different each week? That's because that's important to them. As they provide outstanding customer service, they need employees that can be at the certain places and times and so on to provide that. So if you know that's important to the company, and you can't be flexible with your hours, you're probably not a good candidate for them. And even if you apply, it makes it more difficult to think of them hiring you. And then if you're an employee, they're not going to be happy with you if your schedule really isn't flexible. So why set yourself up that way?
Now, on that application, it does
Yes.
say, under the days of the week, it says indicate which days and hours you would be available.
Yeah.
So you could still possibly be hired.
You could.
According
You put
to
down
those
what you're
days and
available.
hours.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Thank you. Good observation. Appreciate it. All right. And then again, you ought to notice important dates. I was pointing this out. This is Party City again. But I was pointing this out. This is the big statement you get that you have to sign. And of course, it's all full of gobbledygook at the beginning. I hereby affirm the information on this application, accompanying documents, if any, is true and complete to the best of my knowledge. I also agree that any misstatement, falsified information, so on, so on, so on. And it's tough to read through that. But look what they sneak in at the bottom. I understand that this application for employment will only be considered for 120 days from the date it is submitted. Should I wish to be considered for employment beyond this time period, I must submit a new application. Important information. So you have to keep looking and notice important bits that might be stuck in odd places. Nobody likes to read the big long paragraph, but there's a little nugget there that you really need. And then, there's one more. We had several more of these when we went through this in class. It's just review. But you need to notice opportunities to include good things about your experiences. you are having a unique type of experience here at the well, being mentored formally by somebody. This is a good place. What other relevant experience or training have you had, and what other activities are you involved in? You can put that in here, because if this is mentoring at the well is not going to fit under your training, under employment, you know. So if you haven't been able to get it somewhere else in the application, this kind of thing and other sorts of experiences, if you worked in one of the parts of the wells program, if you haven't fit it in somewhere else, oftentimes you get an opportunity to fit it in a
Just your
place like
volunteer
this.
activities.
Yeah, exactly. So look for those. When you hit something like this, think, okay, what other parts of my life might I be able to talk about in here that help communicate to them, I'm a person they want to employ, a person that has a lot of these things on this change list. Because we know what employers want. We're pretty good at knowing that. We just need to get from here to there. All right, let's see. So then we talked about, fine, so that was, we really covered doing what you can to be ready, the first two parts of the purpose statement, and now it's to be hired for a job. So this was last week, and we talked about getting hired. And you cannot prepare too much. And it builds your confidence by practicing. So you practice, practice, practice. There are several major areas I've mentioned here. It was in your notes on last week. We're going to go talk about briefly the individual things that we talked about that all sort of, that you need to be preparing for. Can I move on? You still writing?
No, go ahead.
I can move? Good.
Yep.
Never want to go too fast. So number one is make a good first impression, or I call it begin well. This is 100% in your control. You decide how well it begins. It's your choice, your decision. You can make this happen. And beginning well is something that a portion of the applicant pool doesn't do, and doesn't do well. If you prepare, and you can do all these things, and you do them, that puts you in a good place. So, come early, dress correctly, smile, give a firm handshake, keep eye contact, give a warm greeting. Hello, it's nice to meet you. All right?
I got almost every job I ever applied for just simply by doing those things.
There you go. Begin well. Begin well. Yeah, thank you. That's right. You can control that. Everybody can control it, but they don't. They don't do it. Then we went over a set of things. Engage the interviewer. So you sit in good posture. What's bad posture? Somebody give me an idea? Yeah, it's slumping, yeah. So I walked into an interview, yeah, we're not. So I walked into the interview, you know, it's like,
I am right now.
this is not engaging the interviewer. Either sitting up straight, now the shoulders are key, have them rolled back, not forward, like this. You know, roll back a little bit, it gets more oxygen into you. And then the head either, don't let it be down, level, or just a teeny bit up. You don't want to be way up, I already talked to you about that. You don't want to do that. But even a little bit up, because all that communicates confidence. And so you want to communicate confidence. Sit with good posture, maintain eye contact, talk about your strengths and what you have done. So that's an important thing. So you're looking for opportunities in the questions to put in, one at a time, a strength that you have. So if you're really good at organizing, as the interview goes on, look for an example you can give that shows that you're organized. Look for where you can work in the word organized or organization or the fact that you're organized in questions. Don't say it every question, but look for a good place to put it in. If it's your number one strength, look for a place to put it in maybe 2 times during the course of the whole interview, maybe 3 at the most. But hopefully you've got 4 or 5 things you want to say. So try to get each one of them in somewhere just to emphasize. Talk about your strengths and what you've done. Don't talk too much. You can talk yourself out of the job. And then ask a couple of questions. Just like your example, I was telling them the story of a job I had. So I met first with 4 or 5 people. And then they were going to send on, for a second interview, people to the head of this little organization. And so I was going to have this interview. And I was always taught to come up with a couple of good questions. I came up with 3. I walked in the office, and it's no lie, this is exactly what happened. I walked in the office, I began well, I sat down, and the question I was asked was, or what was the first words out of their mouth was, "So I suppose you have some questions for me?" I said, okay, well, usually it's at the end I try to stick my questions. So I asked my 3 questions, he answered them, and he said, "Thank you very much for coming." That was it. I did get the job. I found out later there were 2 people that were forwarded to this person. I have no idea what the other person did. I never had the guts to ask. But I walked away from that saying, I will never forget to come up with questions again. Come with a couple of questions. A good question is not, when can I get a week off to go to Ocean City? How long do I have to work before I can take a week off? That's not a good question. Right. Can you give an example of a good question? Somebody?
I have one.
Yes.
What will be my responsibilities?
What will be my responsibilities? Excellent. That's a great question. Good. Another one. Yes. We're going to hear enough from you later, but go ahead, stick one in now. This is Melanie Sheeny in the back of the room, and across the table from her is Christina Cruz. They are our 2 panel members for today. So we're letting her have a piece of our time now, so we're going to grill her a little harder later when she's up on the panel. Yes?
What are some challenges this company faces?
Yeah. Yeah. What's the biggest challenge this company faces? Yes?
What is some of the duties of the job?
Yeah, excellent. Good, good, good. Good. So, let's put this in a context. So you're applying to McDonald's. So would you ask that question? What are the duties of the job?
Yes, what
Of
does the job,
course.
like if you do on the grill, you have to ask them, well,
Yeah.
what all, oh my gosh, I'm tired, I'm sorry, guys.
That's
But
okay,
what,
no problem. No problem.
what does the job consist of?
Yeah, that's right. Because places like that, you can just tell by being a customer, they do a lot of stuff. They do anything that has to be done at the moment. So you may be on the grill, but they may say, hey, take the trash out to the dumpster.
Right.
Hey, go
That's
mop up this area so kids spill the soda.
Right, but that wouldn't be my job because my job is to grill.
It might be, but you might be asked.
Yeah.
So that's what you're
Okay,
what you're finding
okay,
out. See,
right.
they may say that.
Right, okay,
Yeah, especially fast food.
right,
They put you anywhere they need you. They can have you check the
They
bathroom.
could.
Right.
But maybe not. Maybe it says, look, this is the way I work my people. I have the grill people, and they focus on that grill because I can't afford to have that grill down for even 2 minutes. So you're gonna be there.
right.
And then I have these 2 or 3 people that run around and take care of any miscellaneous. So that'll tell you some, see, so you get information from those things. So very good, yes.
Those jobs expect you to be adaptable and flexible.
Yeah, they
So
do.
wherever
They
they
do.
need you, that's where they're putting you, so you have to be willing to be adaptable.
And if one of your things is, if you say, you know what, I'm a pretty adaptable person, that's a great question because it sets up the opportunity. If they say something like that, you say, well, I am an that's great because I think I can handle
Right.
that because I'm very adaptable, and give them one quick example where you have been. And guess what? You've asked the question, but now you've reinforced, I'm the kind of employee you want. So that, these questions can be very useful. Any last comments? Okay, then ending well. You can't control 100% what goes on during the interview, because you have an interviewer there asking you questions. So you never know. An interviewer can say to you, if you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be? Don't look like that when they say it in the interview. Say, that's an interesting question. Give me a minute to think. Perfect answer. And then think real hard. And then pick an animal. I'm like a butterfly because I have lots of energy. Don't say because I flip from one thing to the next. I have lots of energy.
I'm fast.
Yeah, exactly. So find a positive character. But anyway, the point is you can't control this because you're with an interviewer. You can control beginning well. That's 100% in your control. 100% in your control is ending well. So leave a good lasting impression. End well. And what are the things that go into ending well? Thank the interviewer. Express interest in the position. You know, something like, it sounds like a great opportunity. I look forward to hearing from you. Or you can wrap it into your thanks. Say, thank you for the time. I really appreciate having the opportunity to find out more about your company and being able to express to you, I'm making this up, that's why I'm stumbling. You can't stumble, you have to prepare. You have to know what you're going to say. Script it out. But come up with a good sentence. So I appreciated talking with you and learning more about this company. I'm really excited about the possibilities here. Very good. Give them a smile, a firm handshake, and eye contact. So you're not giving them a handshake and turning to leave at the same time. You're in there, giving them a handshake, smile, eye contact, and then walk away confidently. Head high, shoulders back, like you did before, because you can control all of that. You can do that, no matter how you feel. Okay, so we talked about that too. So we have these 10 interview questions. Now, what you have in the notes in your notebook is some interview questions, but these aren't the only ones. You can, or your mentor can find scores of questions online. What people typically ask or sometimes ask. I've given you a set of, I can't remember the number, 15 or so, 10, that are often asked, and then some notes underneath about how you might answer that, or what they're trying to get at by asking that, so you can think. That's what the ideal is. You need to figure out what is it they're trying to, because their whole job as an interviewer is trying to figure out, are you the employee we want? And you already know you are, if you've done a good job reading the application, and you've worked on changing these areas.
So would you ask the person, what are you looking for in an employee?
That's a good question. There's a form of that in here that you would use toward the end, which I love to do. Well, I thought it was in here. Maybe I put it down here. Yeah, right here. It's questions you can ask in a job, and you can ask in a job interview. Do you see any reason I might not be a good fit for this position? That's something you could ask at the end. Or, is there anything in my answers, do you have any questions about that? Or any reason why you think I might, again, I'm stumbling because I have to think before I talk. And so I'm just a lousy example up here because you should never be stumbling around when you're talking to an interview. You should have all this figured out. But anyway, yeah, so that kind of thing is a good one. And what kind of employer are you looking for here? That's a reasonably
Because
good
it gives
question.
you an
Sure,
idea
sure.
of how to answer their questions.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, well, my mentor took me from an interview, and me and her went through some questions
Oh,
before I
good.
went in.
Yeah,
Yeah, so they would be fresh on my mind.
good. Yes, exactly. Suggest that to your mentor. Yeah, exactly. Good, yeah, perfect. Okay, so you have some there, your mentor can find more, you can find more online. There's list after list after list of them you can find. Oh yeah, this is the last lesson from last week. Brace yourself for rejection. If you think, last talking about here, that job hunting is fun, I apologize to you. It's no fun at all. Rejection is part of the process.
Gives you a chance to improve.
Exactly. The two tools you have, you already know about the first one. Get support from mentors and friends. They've been there. They've lived through this before. Even if you have before, you're going through it again, it just seems so hopeless and bad. Get support. And then every rejection, you ought to ask yourself the question, or tell your mentor, ask me this question. What can I improve? Either in being the employee that better fits an organization like this, or beginning well, ending well, or whatever it is. What can I improve? How can I change some more? Always do that. And
I heard someone say one time that rejection was a stepping stone to success. I think it was an actor or someone like that. So every
Yes.
rejection they had, they just saw it not as failure, but as a stepping stone
Yeah.
to the next opportunity.
Yeah, a lot of this, I'm just talking about an attitude, an approach to something. Because it's going to be crushing, it's going to be sad, it's going to be discouraging, might be depressing. All right, good. Well, that sort of reviews everything that we've done. If you were still writing some of that,
No, I remember it.
okay, this is the whole list of the things that we were talking about. The first 4 of these were beginning well. The next several, down to number 9, were in when you're engaging the interviewer, and then the last 3 were ending well. All right, let me call my panel up. I'm going to call up Melanie and Christina. And you want to sit? You want to wander around like I always do?
Imagine, Christina, you want to sit?
Yes, I get down the light. Yes, get what you need. All right, so we have a panel here of people that can talk about anything in the area of job preparedness.
In the world.
I like that you narrowed that down.
Yeah, thanks, Dad.
They can even, you can act like an interviewer and say, how would you answer this question? And ask them a question like you're an interviewer to see how somebody might answer that question. You know what I mean? These women are highly able and capable of doing this.
So Melanie, why are you here today?
Good, good question.
I would know your name if I was going into the interview.
Wanda.
Wanda. Well, Wanda, I'm keenly interested in the position that you have advertised for, and I'd like to learn more about it and interview for it.
That's really good.
Thanks.
So, a couple of things. Melanie is very extroverted, so she thinks quickly on her feet. Not as much. So I would probably take a moment and be like, okay, well, and then think about it.
Good
And
question.
good question to collect my thoughts.
There's nothing wrong with collecting your thoughts in an
Yeah.
interview.
You know.
And you can ask for time, like I showed you in that one. You say, that's an interesting question, give me a minute to think. And interviewers don't mind that. Most of the time, they really do recognize personality differences.
And you know why you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just-
Yes.
They're
Just
just looking
wander in.
for a way
Yeah.
for you to speak.
That's
and
right.
Yeah.
They want to get
That's
an
right.
idea
Yes.
of what you're like.
I've been on several job interviews where when you both sit down, the first thing they say is, it's awkward. It's awkward, and so it's okay to kind of ease in, you know, as long as you're comfortable and confident in who you are and you know that you're ready for this interview, you know, it'll be fine.
Yeah. Great.
I think a lot of it also comes with preparing, as Steve was saying earlier. You know, like going through your questions, you know, checking out the company's company's website, reviewing the
Who are they and what do they do?
yeah, reviewing that, you know, and just knowing like, okay, what are they about? What is their slogan? What do I think about, you know, their slogan? And
Good.
then I know something that helps me, it's like a few days before, those simple things like pluck my eyebrows.
Are you kidding
you
with
know,
that
like-
commercial?
like make sure my clothes are clean, I've tried them on, I know that I'm looking good and I'm feeling good, I know what I'm doing with my hair, so that day I'm not like flustered, like I'm gonna straighten it, oh, I should have left.
Don't eat onions before the interview.
Yes. Have a nice light meal, you know, drink some water.
Good? Good night,
Like,
sleep?
that type of thing just makes me feel
Yeah.
prepared and ready. But if I'm flustered or if I didn't account for enough time to get to the place, you know, and I'm arriving late, then then I'm already like stressed out and then someone's asking me questions, I'm like, oh, that's not gonna end well. But if I'm just, you know, prepared and calm and done all my research, then it usually ends well. So.
I will say some employers, if your interview is at 2:00 and you show up at 2, you're already a little late.
Yeah.
Show up 15 minutes before, 10 minutes before, so that way they know you are interested and you've prioritized this interview. Another thing that I did, and this is piggybacking on you a little bit, Christina, I had an interview for Bath and Body Works, and so I do you guys all know Bath and Body Works?
Yes,
It's the
my favorite shop.
lotiony, smelly store. I loved it. My mom, not so much. When I would come home smelling like all of the things. But I was back in college, and so I knew I was going in there, and I thought, well, why Bath and Body Works? Why not somewhere else that sells lotion? So I researched the actual products, and so what I did was I went in knowing why people care about Bath and Body Works more than anybody else, any other brand, so that I knew I could sell Bath and Body Works lotion, not just lotion. And so when I went in there, I already had a little bit of knowledge about the company. I had a little bit of knowledge about the products themselves. So when we talked, they knew I had done my research and that I wanted to sell them something that I was interested in. So wherever you go to interview, whether it's a doctor's office or a fast food restaurant or something, if they know that you care about what you're selling, or you care about, like in a doctor's office, they're selling the services. If they know that you care enough, that you know everything that happens, that they do x-rays in that office, that they do this and that in the office, it's a gynecologist's office, so they mainly treat only women, and you knowing that is important. And if they know that you know, it shows them how much you care. And if they know you're that dedicated before you've even gotten to the interview, then they know a little bit about your character, which is you're someone that cares and you want to be a part of this company, group, what have you. So do your research ahead of time and let it show. It means something. Even at places that you think it might not. You might not think that knowing a lot about McDonald's and what they're doing matters because it's fast food. It
But
matters.
they have manager trainee programs that could get you.
They do.
on
I
the
worked at a
manager.
McDonald's and they care. They care. The people who run McDonald's franchises, they own that little McDonald's and they want it run well, and they want the people in there to walk in and be satisfied and want to go to their McDonald's, not the one down the street. And you caring makes all the difference.
Thank you. Next. Given all the stuff we've talked about, just in general about preparation and so on, what do you do with a potentially dangerous question like, tell me something about yourself? How do you approach that question?
One of the things I would have done perhaps the night before is thought about that question, because that is something that they do ask. Tell me about yourself, you know. And so then I would think like, okay, where am I applying? You know, when I worked once at a fast food in the food court. It's called Mrs. Pinelli's. It's like a pizza place in a food court.
She's Canadian.
Yes.
So-
Canadian.
That's why we have a hard accent.
And so like they ask you about that. It's like, okay, so like what do I know about myself, and what do I know about where I'm applying, and what common grounds, you know, can I find? I'm like, okay, I like pizza. You know, Mrs. Pinelli's make pizza and pasta and all of this stuff, but also, you know, it's a food court, so it's a fast-paced environment. You know, so I'm like, okay, well, first of all, I know I can provide good customer service. I know that I can work quickly. I know that I can do many different things at the same time, and I can switch tasks quickly, and so that would be like something that I would bring in, you know, like these are the aspects of my personality that I think that would work well for your company or your store or your restaurant. So I would try to find some common ground.
Good? Sounds good. Think about where you're applying
Yeah.
and tailor your answer. Very good. Good
Here's
principle.
one interview question that I used to get and I hated it. Tell me one thing that you would like to improve about yourself and why.
Good.
So first off, don't make that face that I just made.
And then you say, that's a great question. Give me just a moment to think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I've thought about it before, and you're like, you don't want to
hate that
answer it.
question.
It's,
because
you
you're
can,
trying to
Don't
like-
answer it too quickly.
let me tell you though, you can rule that question.
Okay, go
You
for
can rule the question.
Exactly.
it. Go for it.
Exactly.
Melody's gonna get her hands dirty.
I
Alright,
know.
so here's how this
And
one works.
this is how I answer that on.
You're like, all right.
Let's dig in. You wanna know?
And you rule it by preparing for it.
Yeah.
Yes,
That is
so-
a very famous interpretation.
So our teacher here, he is a human resource specialist. So when I was looking for jobs and I was looking for something full-time so I could move out of the house, he's my father, just so you guys know.
Oh.
So I was looking to move out of the house.
Aw.
That wouldn't make sense unless you knew that. And so he got me a book that was something like, there was hundreds of interview questions. And he went through with me and just looked at a couple of the tricky ones. What are some weaknesses you have?
Yes.
Tell us something interesting about yourself. What is something you'd like to improve? Tell us about a situation where you had a conflict with another person and what did you do about it? These are like landmines and you're so afraid to step on one. But if you know ahead of time, you can reveal who you are without revealing too much, and you can reveal the kind of person you are when it comes to being willing to learn and being willing to change. So for me, the question is, what's one thing you'd like to improve? What I would be willing to admit a weakness I have. So for me, that's going to be, this was the best time I think I answered this was when I was applying for an office job, and I said, well. You know, I enjoy multitasking and working in a fast-paced environment. However, sometimes I understand the priorities well, but when new information comes in, I don't always know where to put that in the new list of priorities. And so one of the things that I'd like to do to improve that is increase my communication with my supervisor so that I'm always on the same page with them and I know what they want so I can be the best possible assistant to them.
Good job.
So, right? I worked really hard on that one.
Two things you did really great there was like, this is where I may have some problems, but I already have a solution for it.
Yeah.
I
You're not-
described the solution without diminishing the problem.
Right.
Like I allowed myself to have a problem because if you go in and you're like, my problem is that I just care too much, they're just gonna blow you off. Like they're, you know. So you have to be vulnerable enough to let them know you're a real person who struggles, but also that you're smart, you're capable, you can create
Right.
solutions, and you're willing to do it, and you're already on track.
Right.
Another, just before you ask another question, you all ought to be excited about answering that question because you don't have to do what Melanie did at first. Once you can say, well, actually, you know, a year and a half ago, I got involved in this organization called The Well and got hooked up with a mentor. And I've been in the process of changing and improving since. And, you know,
That's why I'm asking, I've had two different, I've had one person tell me that I should make this a personal
Yeah.
experience
Yeah.
and remove it from an office situation.
Yeah.
And I've had one person tell me that I should keep it as a professional answer. So that's why I'm asking
Yeah,
if you
that's
should keep
right.
it as a professional answer
Sure.
or as a personal
Right.
answer.
But I'm just saying, you can say, look, I'm been working with Mentor and I've been on a road to change. Here are the things I'm working on currently.
Right.
Say, I'm working, you know, to get better at this, better at that.
The
And-
word
and-
mentor is a gold mine.
Yeah,
by the way.
exactly.
It's a gold mine.
Anyway, so thanks, yes.
I actually, to talk about that, I actually use my volunteer
Yeah.
work here
Yeah.
on my new job.
Yeah.
And I obviously accepted
Yeah,
because they
that's
hired
right.
me, but
That's right.
with, getting this new job now, I'm like a perfectionist, so like I have to like make sure all the food and everything is off the floor. And they're expecting me to do it fast, but I'm the type of person that likes to do it right. So that's my problem.
Actually, that's not a bad thing to tell them.
That's right.
Unfortunately, I'm a perfectionist, so I try.
So I have to take a
Right.
little extra time to do things just right because I care so much.
Oh,
Right.
boy, hire her right away.
Write that down.
And because I'm in housekeeping laundry, like I'm training for both, so I just got done with my orientation, so. But the lady that was working with me, because the supervisor for some reason didn't show up, so they had me working with the other
Yeah.
housekeeper, and she's like, because we were both, she was on one side and I was on the other side doing room, she goes, "This is so much faster. It gets done so much faster with both of us
Right.
on each side."
Right.
And I was like, yeah, it is pretty fast. And then because obviously she wanted me to do the A wing, but this was only my third day in orientation for training, and I called her up and I was like, "Christina, I'm not sure if you're coming today, but this is my third day in orientation today, but I'm not ready to go on my own on the A wing yet." So she called the other lady and texted her or whatever and said for me to work with her, and then the other lady was happy that I was working with her, that it was much faster.
Yeah, yeah, good.
It's an excellent thing,
So
knowing,
yeah,
when you see that you need help, ask them for
yeah,
it. And I think employers, in my experience, are like, if you are upfront about it,
yeah.
it goes a long way as opposed to trying to fudge it a little
Try to
bit and
pretend
try
that
to
I'm
pretend,
that I'm ready.
and then
Yeah.
coming back like, why didn't you ask?
And if a maid can get something done or housekeeping can get something done in an hour and it's not that great, or it takes them 2 hours and it is perfection, everybody's gonna want the 2 hours. So revealing that in an interview just reveals to them that you are going to give their reputation a bolster. You're gonna up their reputation because everything you do for that company is going to shine and be brilliant. So it's a good thing. Which is a great way to answer the weakness question because there it is, it's positive, so.
Yeah. Okay, it's quiet. Is it raining outside?
It is.
What's your favorite way to begin well? How do you control things at the beginning? Begin well, we talked about come early, dress correctly, smile, give firm handshake and eye contact, give warm greeting, hello, it's nice to see you, meet you. That's what I threw up there. Are there things that you have learned or you do to begin well?
I always do at least 2 things. The first
Yeah.
is I always say thank you for meeting with me right at
Good.
the outset.
Good.
So I'll say hello, it's nice to meet you, and as we're sitting down, I'll say thank you so much for meeting
Very
with me
good.
today.
Very
Just
good.
so they know I'm already grateful, because it sets the tone that I'm not entitled, I'm not, I'm invested. The other thing I do is if you're there early, you have a chance to see the property of wherever it is, whether it's a restaurant location, a mall, an office building, or someone's home, and you can comment about something to let them know that you're observing and you're interested. If you're in a mall, like when I interviewed at Yankee, I'll say, wow, the foot traffic along this area is much more so than on these extra wings. So I'm already thinking you're getting more customers. So they know I'm already thinking about their store in the context of my life and looking around for an office building. Wow, this property is really beautiful. What a gorgeous crepe myrtle tree you have out front. And it breaks the ice and it's relaxing and then they know you care. It's
Good.
just another way to let them know you care. So that's something I would do.
Something I would do, which is it's not piggybacking off of what you're doing, which is all great. 2 things I usually do in interviews is bring copies of my resume, just because I've been in certain interviews where they don't have it. They just have like the name, or there's more people there and they only have the 1 copy, and so I'm able to.
Oh, here, I've got
I've
more.
got more on nice paper, or I can refer to it. you know, it within the interview, I'd be like, oh, on my resume, if you see on page 2 or on my education section or whatever, you know, this is, and just refer to it.
Do you have any recommendations for this job?
Pardon me?
Do
Oh,
you have any recommendations for this job?
oh, like,
He's asking you.
oh, you're asking
Maybe
me.
a question you need.
Oh, yes, yes. I was like, I'm not sure where that's coming from. And the other thing I usually do is I keep, like I'll bring like a little folder with like a pad of paper and a pen. So that way, when they're talking, I can take some notes on like key words that they're saying, and maybe, like if they're saying, okay, we want energetic, responsible people, responsible. So when I answer, I can use it back, you know, because when you're in an interview, you're hearing so many things, and then you might forget what they say, because it's like a high pressure thing, but if I have it written down, it helps.
Oh, that would be important for me because I'm forgetful.
Yeah, so those are
If they ask
two
you to meet
things.
you again or something, a certain day
Or
and
write
time,
that
and you
day.
don't remember it.
Or write the person's name
You're stuck.
down, so you can say like, yes,
Yeah.
June, yes.
Or saying goodbye, thank you, Jim.
Yeah, so that way, you know, you're ready and you leave a good impression.
And to go off of that as well, even if you've prepared questions for your interview about the company or about the duties of the job, a lot of times your questions may be, because a lot of times they'll give a spiel at the beginning. Well, this job, because they've done it for 5 other people, so they're gonna go through and your questions might not be answered. So for you to ask those questions, you're like, uh-oh, because you don't wanna seem like you're not paying attention. So then what you do is as you go through the interview, you write down everything they're saying, and then you get to something like, that's interesting, so there's this many stores in the district, well, where do we rank in those stores? And, you know, what's the relationship like between the stores, or something like that, because you can create new questions on the fly by writing down what they say and just asking for more information on what they say. So you can save yourself a lot of trouble if you happen to go in with your prepared, good questions that just all get answered for you before you can ask them.
Those are 2 things that.
What else can we ask?
I didn't ask anything, I just, I told the lady my core values are helping others. That was one thing that I told the interviewer.
And then also be prepared to talk about yourself, because they want to tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a great
Right,
answer.
that's what she did, tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
Like, my core values are,
And that's
you
great.
know, yeah.
I know when I was working for Auntie Anne's Pretzels, they had us taste the different kind of pretzels they had. So you're
I
going,
looked at
right,
Don't lie.
so, they had at the time, I remember the garlic pretzel. And then once you're sitting there talking, it's like, sorry. My breath is.
It's like you were not ready to say another word.
And once I actually did that, you know, I had to cover my own breath, you know, because it was bad. You know, and the reason why he did that is because so we can tell the customers more, oh, you got a kid head, the almonds will taste good, you know. Well, I'm just gonna say this to be funny. Well, your breath is already kicking, here goes the garlic.
Okay, I have a question. Now, I know, cause I used to work for cleaning authority, but anyway, do we get paid for traveling time?
It depends sometimes.
Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
Like, how would we ask that question? Or,
No, I mean, it's,
She's asking the
I'm
question
asking
to
the question.
That would
to the boss.
depend fully
It would-
upon the position.
High rate.
Yeah.
That question, I would not ask in the first interview.
Right.
Because, and I really, they might tell you the hourly pay is this, the salaried pay is this, and you can say, okay, and then if they offer you the job, you can say, I'd love to discuss, you know, pay and more when we negotiate a contract. Because even when you are an hourly worker, you have to sign off on a contract. And so that's the time where you can say something like, now, I'd like some clarification. Do we get paid during our travel time? Is gas money involved? Those
Right,
kinds of
right.
questions. if you ask those in the first interview, I think employers might get this idea that you are just laser beam focused on what you're going to get as opposed to what you want to give them, and that's the impression you want to make is I want to give you myself and invest. And then during the negotiations, you toe the line there and negotiate.
Would you put it in a positive form though, like if you know that the job requires travel, you could say, how much do you pay for travel time, rather than do you pay for travel time? That way, you're assuming that you do.
Like, I think because I used to work for cleaning authority, and, as long as you were in the house and, cleaning the house, that was fine, but as soon as you walk out of the house, that's when the time stops, then you go to your next job, as soon as you walk in that house, then it starts.
Right.
Right.
So that's why,
That's
okay.
a great question to ask.
And that's important to ask because it
Right.
makes a big effect on what you get paid, especially if you've got
Right,
houses that are
right.
distant.
That's right.
Right.
But I wouldn't do it in that initial, do we want you interview? I would do it in the second, we do want you, how do we keep you?
Okay.
And that's when you say, all right,
Okay.
that's when all the negotiation comes out and all of
Right.
that.
The callback.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The second audition, so. That's a great question. That's a hard one to do because if you know you have a salary or an hourly wage you have in mind and you know it might not quite reach there, you kind of want them to know. But at the same time, you want to sell yourself in terms of them wanting to put you on their roster first. So that's the level of priority.
You might say, does the wage include the travel time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true, right, yeah, that's true.
I wanna know the purpose of having 3 interviews.
Well, because they weed out the top 5 people normally.
And
They
sometimes
have 5,000 people applying.
Right.
well, it also depends, like, I interviewed for an Episcopal church and I was the administrator there. The first interview was just with the rector, who's the head of that church. And because he was just gonna immediately weed out people he didn't trust and he wasn't interested in, or people that he felt his wife wouldn't trust. So that, boom, he just
Right.
kept the people he liked. Well, then it went to like a committee of church members. And then it went to the 2 like senior people in the church and him again. So it went to different people to kind of weed through.
And for different purposes.
And for different purposes. Some, one was there to kind of learn more about me. One was there to make sure my qualifications were right. And then, the last is, am I really the good fit for this job? So.
Well, like this morning in negotiating, I clean houses, and, he said, well, I have 2 guys, that's gonna come and shampoo, and when do you think you'll be finished this job so I can get them in? I said, I can shampoo it for you, I have experience in using the rug doctor and shampooing a house, and you won't have to pay those 2 guys, you just pay the fee to me, and I'll do it on the cleaning day or the second day. So I got I'm gonna get a little extra money for that.
Good for you. Well done.
Right.
You're like, this is my skill set, man.
I'm already there anyway.
I got
Let me do that for you. I have experience.
Wait, that's awesome initiative.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I got her on
That's how I.
my couch.
All right, any last questions for our panel?
Have there been any hard questions that you were asked that
You
when
couldn't answer?
when you were interviewed, that maybe you couldn't answer?
I think one of the hardest things I've answered was, well, the situation was hard when there's like a panel of people and there's more than
Yeah,
just
6
one.
panels are hard, yeah.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, and like where do you look and all of that. And trying to,
You got them rapid fire on them,
Yeah.
and they've been prepared for
yeah,
weeks.
yeah,
They
they've
know
been
what
doing
they're gonna
this.
ask.
So I think that, for me, that's the hardest one, but I think what helps me the most is taking down notes while I'm being asked the question and making sure I address like all the things in there, as much as I can. I don't remember specific though, like.
Sometimes they'll ask you something that isn't related to the job. Because they want to see what you do. Like this one guy asked me, tell us something completely unique about yourself that will set you apart from the other candidates.
Yeah. Like I can
And
That's in
so,
my head. No, that's not useful.
but that wouldn't set you apart. So I actually, and don't necessarily follow this example, but I said, I hate eating cold ketchup on warm food. I can't stand refrigerated ketchup. And they all burst out laughing, and it worked. Now, it was a risky move, and I don't recommend you do it. But there's gonna be times where they ask you a question that you cannot be prepared for, and in that moment, that's a great question. And then think about it and just say, all right, Lord, you're just gonna be what comes out of my mouth. And trust that whatever comes out, you can trust that the Lord has been working through you. So even if it's something a little weird or crazy, it's okay.
Cold ketchup.
Like cold ketchup, what was I thinking? I got the job, so I'm all right, but
Remember what Andrew Carnegie said, they put their pants on the same way you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
one cold ketchup bottle at a time.
I went
All
for
right.
my sergeant's position.
Will you do me a favor and give our panel a hand? Thank you for making the trip up here. Thank you very much for being willing to.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yes, you're welcome, you're welcome. All right, so that sort of concludes the job preparedness class. Thank you so much. Enjoyed having you all. If you have any questions, or certainly if there's anything about this class that can be a little better, you can feel free to talk to me, but feel free to tell your mentor, tell Mandy, and we will tweak this thing up.
Dude, I was about to
Make it
ask
better.
one more thing.
Yes?
I see that you're about to have a baby.
Yeah, congratulations.
Obvious.
In a job interview. No.
Right. You know, I was like 2 months pregnant when I got my Walmart job.
All right.
And literally my water broke.
Oh, no.
While you were working?
Work?
Yeah.
Goodness gracious, girl.
Well,
And here comes
thank you all very
Sylvan, right?
much. Appreciate having you.
Yes, it was Selvin. Yep.